It's Cliff Gallup time.
Hello, Rockabilly cats and kittens. These days I'm on holiday, that's why I have my travel guitar with me and a funny recording setup. Before we dive into the Cliff Gallup's parts, let's go through a bunch of core concepts. First on our list is rhythmical patterns, or actually polyrhythmic patterns. Think grouping 8 notes by 3. The best example is second solo of the song. You probably remember those octaves moving up in halftone steps. Here every single step is essentially 3/8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All in all, it creates this kind of rhythmical pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ta-ba-da, 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 ta-ba-da. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. A more complicated example could be what Cliff Gallup plays in fourth verse. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Ta, da, ta, da, 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 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. As you can see, this thing also groups 8s by 3, but this time it is 1/8 note and 2 rests. Or maybe even less obvious, but nevertheless it is still there. Let's recall the first solo. Here these notes we could count like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, that was about rhythm. The next topic is use of right hand's fingers. We all know Cliff did that. He used a flat pick with a couple of metal finger picks on his middle and ring fingers, pretty much like a steel guitar player. The question is, how exactly did he do that? Unless someone who was there when it happened and who thinks we ought to know magically chimes in the comments to the suite, we'll have to admit we can only guess. Well, let's recall the lick Cliff played in the end of the song and a similar one from the end of the second solo. It's a bunch of speedy triplets like this. However, played like this, just with the pick, it misses something. Some, I don't know, fullness or actually at the same time dirtiness. But if you recall, Cliff used hybrid picking and probably, given the tempo was not very precise, touching more than one string at a time, you can play the same like this. Watch my right hand. And now it sounds much closer to what we hear on the recording. Also recall licks like this. Watch my right hand. I'm using my index finger and that's on purpose. On the recording, the upper note of the double stop, of this double stop, is very pronounced while the lower note is barely heard, just like a ghost note. Or actually like something which was played accidentally due to not very accurate finger picking technique. Well, in fact, just try to play it with metal picks and you'll know what I mean. I have actually tried. And finally, one more point. You will see that during the verses Cliff Gallup kind of disregards chord changes and just stays on G almost all of the time. We can only guess if that was some kind of ignorance. I don't know if there is a better word, but you know, like, well, it's just some noodling in the background, so who cares? Or maybe it was on purpose. In any case, staying on the root chord was legitimated by early jazz players back in the 1920s, if not earlier. I will play you something. completely fine to keep the melodic line in G through the whole 12-bar progression, and that's exactly what Cliff Gallup does in the verses. At this point, we should be armed good enough to tackle the original guitar parts. So let's begin. Here in the end, on second string I play only the first note with my right hand, and the rest is legato, I mean slides, pull-offs, hammer-ons, this kind of stuff. Then the next lick is one, two, 1, 2, 3, 4. Here we have this polyrhythmic pattern. Also, normally you would use pinky here to reach the high B flat, but I've ended up with middle finger that's to create some kind of sliding. And then the next lick is some syncopation here and there. And finally so let's play the whole thing. It starts with the rest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Those were actually those double stops I play with the right hand fingers. And a closer look at the second part of the lick. It starts with 3 hammer-ons in a row. So the whole lick once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then the next line. It uses pretty much the same notes. Followed by a typical Cliff Gallup lick. And coming to the turnaround. Let's repeat the whole verse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. was not the end. There are 4 more bars on G chord before the solo, kind of preparing for it. Here is what Cliff Gallup plays during that time. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three. That was actually one of my favorite Cliff Gallup licks, simple and aggressive, and that's why I like it. Then it goes into C chord. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. The next one probably doesn't need much explanations. And then approaching D7 chord, followed by C, and once again. So let's play the whole solo. 1, 2, 3. So this last note takes us from the solo to the next verse. Maybe it is logically already a part of that next verse, I don't know. Let's start it from the end of the solo. Two, three, four. That's how it takes us from G to C. There's also a syncopated note in the middle. Taham! And then we're back on G. And finally, jump back, rock cats rock. So the whole verse from start to end. Two, three, four. Jump back. One, two, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Down, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the da 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 da. So yes, it is a polyrhythmic pattern in the beginning, repeated 5 times in a row, complicated to count but easy to play. And then it goes into C chord. Followed by a rest. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey! Here it requires a bit of attention. It's easy to get lost in these changes between B flat and B on third string. So let's play the whole verse. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. One, the down, the one, the down, the one, the down, the one, the down, the one, the down, the. And since it's the last verse before the second solo, we have those 4 more bars on G. These are pretty easy. Yeah, finally we have that polyrhythmic octave madness here. So it starts on G chord and goes all the way 4 whole bars into C. This one has a Bixby dive on B flat. And then getting back to G, things look pretty typical. The next lick, covering D7 and C chords, starts with a Bixby dive. Finally, these finger-picking speedy triplets. Don't try to be very precise, let your fingers touch also adjacent strings. So, the whole solo. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll start it from the end of the solo, there will be a short rest right after. Rest. 3, 4. Here it was a slide and a pull off in the end. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. It was a bit hard to decompose it, so let's just play the whole verse start to end. 3, 4. Two, 1, 2, 3, 4. it's a bit complicated rhythmically, repeats 4 times in a row, first stays firm with the beat but then goes polyrhythmic. Once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. Here, this note, B, Cliff Gallup plays it shamelessly for the C chord. This is how the whole lick sounds with the chord, pretty much like some cool jazz of the early 50s. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here I've just continued it further. And finally, 3, 4. So that was the end of the verse. Now let's play the whole verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. That was the first line of the verse, and in the beginning we have this finger picking lick. Followed by some pretty typical Cliff Gallup stuff. The next line sounds like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 3, 4. And that was pretty much it. Let's play the whole verse. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, 1. 3, 4. So that was it, and thank you for watching.